Next, we're going to take a look at how to solve trig equations. So you have to remember what information the unit circle gives us. So for example, along this line, where our degree is 30 degrees, or our radian measure is pi over 6, remember cosine is the x-coordinate, sine is the y-coordinate, and then you'll have to generate tangent ratio by doing sine over cosine. So when we're solving, we're going to be given the coordinate, or the ratio, and we have to give the x value, which is the angle, or the theta value. If you don't have the unit circle memorized, that's okay. What you should remember are the patterns from the unit circle. So looking at the patterns for our cosine, remember cosine values are the x values. So we have square root of 3 over 2, root 2 over 2, 1/2. So those are our cosine values, and they go backwards. 3, 2, 1. Everything is over 2. And then our sine values go in order. 1, 2, 3. And then you can generate those values in the other quadrants using reflections and remembering when x-coordinates and y-coordinates are positive and negative. All right, starting off, we're going to be solving for our x value, or our angle, is in degrees. So we're going to start by solving like it's a normal equation. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Divide both sides by 2. And then take the square root. Now remember, when you take a square root, you get two answers, positive and negative. So we're actually going to be looking at everywhere our cosine value is the square root of 1/2. We'll have to rationalize that. So we actually have cosine is positive or negative 1 over root 2, which when we rationalize it is root 2 over 2. Remember that shortcut, bring the radical to the numerator and just drop it in the denominator. So next, to give our x values. So trying to do this without seeing the unit circle, remember cosine goes 3, 2, 1. So this is the one in the middle. So in degrees, it's 45 degrees. So first I'm going to give the two answers where our cosine is positive. Since cosine is the x-coordinate of that ordered pair, cosine is positive in the first and fourth quadrant. So the way to get the fourth quadrant value is you can think about that unit circle. We are here at 45 degrees. If we go into the fourth quadrant, 45 degrees below that x-axis, 360 minus 45 degrees gives us 315 degrees. So again, these are the two values where the cosine is positive square root of 2 over 2. So now we're going to take a look at when cosine is negative root 2 over 2. So that will be in the second and third quadrant. Again, both of them are 45 degrees from the x-axis. So this one you can think about taking 180 and subtracting 45, and then 180 and adding 45 if you don't have those degree measures memorized. That would give us 135 degrees and 225 degrees. So those are the four values where our cosine will be either positive or negative square root of 2 over 2. Now we're going to take a look at it in radians, and we've got secant. We're still going to solve this like normal, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Divide both sides by 3. And take the square root of both sides. So we have our secant value is positive or negative 2 over the square root of 3. I'm going to leave it unrationalized because we're not going to be thinking about where secant is this value. We're going to think about the reciprocal. Our unit circle is all in terms of sine, cosine, and tangent. So that's the functions that we want to think about when we're solving our equations. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine, so we're actually thinking about where cosine is positive or negative square root of 3 over 2. Again, cosine goes backwards, so it starts at 3, so that's the smallest angle. So in radians, that would be pi over 6. And cosine is positive again in the first and fourth quadrants, so the other quadrant where cosine is positive, thinking about that unit circle, we're pi over 6 away from the x-axis, so we want to be pi over 6 below the x-axis. That's at 11 pi over 6. So that's where the cosine would be positive. Cosine, again, negative in the second and third quadrants. So again, you think about pi over 6 away from pi in this case, and we got 5 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. So these would be the two values, the two cosine angles of rotation that would give us negative root 3 over 2. And our last one for this video, we're taking a look at tangent. So again, starting by adding that 4 to both sides, dividing both sides by 3, and taking the square root of both sides, positive or negative 1 over the square root of 3. So when we rationalize that, we get positive or negative square root of 3 over 3. This one we're again looking at degree measures. Tangent you probably don't have memorized. It's helpful to have tangent memorized, but you can always use sine over cosine to generate it. It's just going to take you a little bit longer. So for those three values, tangent is square root of 3 over 3, 1, and square root of 3. So in degrees, that first one is 30 degrees. This is where tangent's positive. Tangent is positive in the first and third quadrants because it's the ratio of sine and cosine. And in the third quadrant, sine and cosine are both negative, so the ratio will be positive. So in the third quadrant, we're 30 degrees below the x-axis, so that'll give us 210 degrees. And where tangent is negative will be in the second and fourth quadrants. So we're thinking about 30 degrees above the x-axis, and that would be 150 degrees. And then in the fourth quadrant, we're thinking about 30 degrees below the x-axis, so that's 330 degrees. So that's how to generate unit circle values when you're solving trig functions. And in the next video, we're going to take a look at what happens when those values aren't on the unit circle.